distinct pleasure to welcome Sandy Baruah. He comes from Washington with a distinguished career. Before coming to Michigan, he led SBA with $18 billion in assets as the administrator. Sandy, it's a true pleasure to welcome you to Tiecon Midwest.
Thanks, Mateen. Pleasure to be here.
I think no better person than you to ask this question since you led at the federal level and now you're here at the chamber level. But let me take the question for the federal level. How do you think entrepreneurs can work closely with governments, because government policies most of the time, which are meant for entrepreneurs and economic activity and rejuvenation, doesn't always connect well?
Right. Well, I think you use the government program simply as just one tool that is available to you as an entrepreneur or as a small business owner. But it's not the end-all. And I don't think we should expect government to be kind of the end-all program, because government is big, it is bureaucratic. In other words, it's everything that small businesses and entrepreneurs are not. So there is a natural disconnect between those. But the Small Business Administration, which an agency I had the pleasure of leading towards the end of the Bush administration, has numerous programs, and one of the things that President Obama has done is the Small Business Jobs Growth Act, which has really made it a little bit easier for entrepreneurs and small businesses to get loans. They've reduced the fees, they've made more dollars available for the program. But the one thing to remember about the Small Business Administration loans is that they're not government loans. You don't go to the government to get your loan. You go to Comerica Bank, you go to Wells Fargo, you go to US Bank, you go to your regular lending institution, and your lending institution, and there's over 3,000 lending institutions that are approved as part of the SBA program, get a guarantee from the government for the loan that you take out. And there's been a strong effort, Democrat and Republican, to make that process easier.
I want to bring you down to the state level now with the chamber. How do you think this could be effective at the local level?
Well, the U.S. the Detroit Chamber, obviously we're not a government agency, we're not a state government agency, and this is obviously a brand new role for me. But what we're trying to do at the chamber is be much more relevant to support our innovators and our entrepreneurs here in Southeast Michigan. And we're doing several things to do that. One, we have a very robust small business committee that is working on lobbying Lansing on small business issues, that is working on networking, that's working on capital access issues. And I have made a strong commitment to bolster that effort. Secondly, we have an effort underway, which we actually have federal funding from the U.S. Department of Commerce, called Open Innovation. And what we're doing is we're working with small and medium-sized businesses to diversify their businesses away from, say, if they're overly dependent upon the auto industry. We now have some tools at the chamber to help those companies diversify. And thirdly, one of the programs I'm very excited to help support is something called the MORE program. One of the things that we have realized, and lots of people have, is that everyone thinks that money is the big inhibitor for small businesses and entrepreneurs, and to a large extent that's true. But what we found is that sometimes an entrepreneur really needs access to resources that may not necessarily be money. Let me give you a small example. Let's say that, and this is actually a true example, I'm just going to change the facts just a little bit here. Let's say that you are want to be a retail operator of a bakery. Okay, and you've got this great recipe that grandma gave you, and you want to make cakes. But one of the things that you want to do is you want to do these really unusual molds, so you can do cakes in very different shapes, very kind of designer, high-end, type things. Well, the first thing you'd want to do is you'd have to go out and get the molds, right? So the first, and in a normal circumstance, what you do is you'd go out and find out how much these molds cost. You'd find out maybe they cost $20,000 for these customized molds, and then you have to go to get the financing on that. Well, what the MORE program is doing is it is linking up the resources with the entrepreneur without the money. So, what if I told you, if you were that cake maker, that you don't need $20,000 to get a mold, that, say, one of the universities has a polymer division, and you can go ahead and rent their machines for $500 an hour, and in 2 hours you can get everything done. And so for the price of what you could put on your credit card, you now have the molds you need, and you don't need $20,000 to go out and have something made. There's those kinds of connections that we're trying to make through this program called the MORE program. It's not our program, but it's something we're excited to help with.
I know you're really short on time, so I appreciate the effort and the commitment to come and speak with us. One last question about entrepreneurship is, in these tough times especially, we need entrepreneurs and activity to get the economic engine moving. What has been your experience on your take, if you want to throw out a couple of nuggets as advice to budding entrepreneurs to focus?
Yeah. One, shop around. When going back to the financing question, shop around. I think that is absolutely critical. Secondly, have your act together before you go to any kind of lender. I don't care if it's an angel investor, a VC investor, or a traditional financing institution, or some sort of state or local program. Have your act together. Be professional. Be crisp. Those things are very important. Have your business plan together. Know what your financials are going to be. Know who your customers are going to be. That is absolutely, absolutely critical. A lot of folks come in to these institutions with a really great idea, but nothing else. And then they walk out saying, well, why didn't I get my loan, or why didn't I get financial support because I had this great idea? They want the entire package.
Sandy, thank you so much.
My pleasure.